Welcome to the second edition of Bhopal Design Festival, hosted and curated by Jagran School of Design, Jagran Lakecity University. This is Chahat Agrawal in conversation with Mr. Suraajit Khan, a creative consultant with over 20 years of premium experience in the creative and design industry. It is an honor to have you with us, sir.
Thank you.
To introduce our viewers to our guest, Mr. Suraajit sir here is an esteemed, seasoned and accomplished experienced design leader. His expertise spans across various industries like e-commerce, pharma and so many more. With a keen focus on human-centered design, he has delivered multiple award-winning designs for renowned brands like Revity, Save the Children International and Siemens. Starting off with the interview, sir, you have been a part of the industry for a significant period of time. The tools and the technology are ever evolving now. How do you manage to keep up with these tools while still managing the authenticity of your designs?
Thank you, Chahat. So very good question, because it's true that technology is ever evolving, right? So I'll give you a bit of background. So when I started when digital started back in '98, right? So those were the area where website designs were starting, right? But the amenities that we had were very limited. Internet connectivity was on dial-up, and it used to be a luxury for us. So Google was not that evolved. Books were not that much available. Whatever small bit of books are there, it was again very limited in content and explanation. Now, if you are talking of website, you require HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Then again, you need to create the designs in some graphic software. So, because of lack of amenities, we had to kind of do a lot of hit and trial. So JavaScript, I still remember I had a JavaScript book, which obviously was a listing of the formulas that are there without any explanation. Okay, so it's just the mention of the syntaxes that you need to read. So we had to kind of figure out by doing hit and trial how this function is going to perform, how this function is going to, what variable to be we need to pass on. So we have done it hands-on with a lot of hit and trial, and that's probably give us the confidence and strength that whatever comes in now, we are able to easily pick it up, right? So I have done probably 90% of my career designing 90% of my career on Photoshop. Okay, but now then came Sketch. After that came Figma, XD, right?
Yes.
Now, these softwares are not even a concern for us. Why? Because I have done HTML coding myself, I have done CSS coding myself, I have done JavaScript coding myself, I have done designing on the graphic softwares, cutting those images. So I've done everything hands-on, right? So basically what happens is when you go to the core of the things, instead of, for example, when Adobe came up with Dreamweaver, I'm sure you must be knowing about it. So the designers used to use the graphical interface to quickly, I used to do coding.
Oh.
I never used that graphical interface because that's how our brain has been engineered. And when you are doing coding, you have a lot of confidence in you, you have a lot of strength in what you are delivering. So that practice that I have done over so many decades, that actually gives me that confidence and the strength to pick up any software that is coming up in today's world, right? So as a student of design, every student should try and focus on going to the core. There'll be a lot of temptations in drag drop elements.
Yes.
Yeah. But my suggestion will be, my advice will be, go to the core. Try to do everything, because today you are a student, you have a lot of time.
Yes.
Try and learn as much as possible. Don't focus on fancy stuff. Try and learn as much as possible. Go to the core. Because when you get into the corporates, when you get into the workforce, you will hardly have time, but you will have so much to learn.
Yes.
And whatever evolvement is happening in applications, tools, softwares, technology, it's all building upon something which is already there.
Definitely.
It's not something which is new coming up.
Yes.
Today, AI is there, robotics is there, but then it has got a platform. Based on that, it is evolving now, right? So it's an add-on. So going forward, these add-ons will keep on coming up in your life. But if you're strong at your core, then obviously nothing is going to be a roadblock for you. Hope I'm able to answer your question.
That definitely does. It's a great insight for us young students to learn as the things evolve for us too. For moving on to the next question, I would like to ask, we know you as an innovator. Creativity runs with you. So what is that one most out of the box idea that you would say that you have ever pitched and it turned out to be a great game changer?
See, as a creative person, I'm never satisfied. Whatever I do, whatever work I deliver, I still, go back to the design board and start re-evaluating what else I could have done in this one. How better I could have depicted this, whole creative output. So, which is why what happens is when I'm working on any project, I put in my more than 100%. When we as creative people work, especially me, I never look at the time that I'm working on. I look at the quality of the delivery, whether the story is getting depicted properly. There have been so many instances where we are almost freezed on the concept and the design, and we scrapped it completely because we just realized that we missed out on important stuff, right? And that's because probably we didn't invest much time in researching, right? So it's very difficult for me to depict one creative, work that I feel it's outstanding, it's the most satisfying, because every work that I do with same intent, I put in the same effort. But yes, I have done a lot of good work, but I cannot, put a one creative which I can say, because every project has got a different sense. Every project has got a different meaning.
Yes.
A different story is being talked within that project, right? And every individual is carrying a different story. So every story needs to be honored, respected, and depicted in a way which is real. Because if you are not depicting something in a real form, then probably it will not last for a longer time. The impact will not be longer. It will be like, coming and going off. People will not even realize, right? So that's what my essence has been, my policy has been, my principles has been, and which is why it's very difficult for me to depict one project which I consider this is the project. I don't know, because see, I have been a student of design, right, without any formal education, and I am fortunate that I have been able to spend nearly 3 decades into design, being a student of design, and probably I'll continue to do it for the next 3 decades. Design is something which is very intriguing. It comes naturally to me. As I said, I don't have any formal education. It's all been hands-on. So I love, I love this domain. I love this concept of design. I love to study the emotions people carry and figure out ways in how to depict them in the nicest form, where the story is getting depicted and not just looking nice.
Thank you, sir. That really put forward the passion you have for design, good designs. I would, with this, I would like to move on to this next question. I want to talk about this project that you did, your campaign design for Chili Paneer the second for DBS Bank. It has been it has bagged many awards, and it surely does deserve the recognition because with its one of a kind interaction design with 8 personalized endings. I would like to know, can you drive us through the process? What was the ideation process like? How did you come up with such an innovative idea?
Right. So DBS Chili Paneer has been innovation in the Indian creative industry. It was probably the first interactive, video interactive creative campaign. DBS Bank, as you know, is based out of Singapore. They have been into India for a couple of years prior to that work that we did. But then they were not able to establish themselves in the Indian financial framework. So which is when we proposed them for coming up with a new campaign, and obviously we had a huge team to work with, and we were spearheaded with one of the stalwarts of Indian creative industry. He is popularly known as Pops, Kondipati Sridhar, and under his guidance, under his thought process, different creative people were brought into the team with equal qualified creative guys. Somebody was good at script writing, somebody was good at designing, somebody was good at UI UX, somebody was good at the technology side of it. Because when you are creating an interactive video, so that means you need to have a lot of interaction, and every interaction needs to go seamlessly well, right? So it was a good team, and we worked together to kind of come up with this storyline. So the idea was to depict a real-time Indian scenario. Okay, so there is this person, there is this lady who wants to start a business. She meets one gentleman who has come from abroad, and that person is also interested in building some business and creating something in the Indian framework. So they meet together, and their minds match, their ideas match. But then they didn't have any finance. So they reached out to different financial institutions, but then eventually they landed up with DBS, and they decided to start a restaurant in Goa. Okay, but Goa being the happening place, obviously. And but then they had to go through a lot of challenges, which any individual, any business owner, if they are starting a business, they have to go through multiple challenges, right? So we picked up all those real-time scenarios from anybody's, any business owner's lifetime, and we crafted a storyline with 8 different endings, so that if this thing happens, then this is how the story moves. If this thing happens, then this is how the story moves. And as you move ahead, then there are further diversifying storylines coming up. So it has been so eventually the idea was to depict a story of a real individual, the kind of challenges that they're going to face out of once they decide to kind of get into this business mode, or trying to start a new business for their own. And so, and eventually, obviously, we all want happy endings, right? Nobody wants any tough ending. But then how you overcome those challenges is something which we try to depict, and eventually bringing forward the financial institutions who is supporting them to grow, to start their business, grow their business, and eventually make it sustainable. So this is out, and it has, and in Indian scenario, it was probably the first interactive video campaign.
Yes.
And yeah, it was quite eye opener, you can say. Yes. During that time.
Yes. Thank you, sir. It was like great knowing, sir, getting an insider view to such an innovative project, knowing how personalization can connect and resonate with the audience, and hence we get the clients. So moving on to the next question to conclude. Okay, if we get back to BDF, this year's theme, Ways of Nature Decolonizing Design, how would you suggest upcoming designers to contribute to this effort for decolonizing design in today's modern contemporary space?
Very good question. In fact, it's the need of the hour, I would say.
Definitely.
Because the oppression of colonization has been deep rooted into our mind, and it has been deep rooted since quite a centuries. Yeah. We in India, we have a very rich culture. If you pick up the localized elements, whether it is textile, whether it is architecture, whether it is food, whether it is clothing, for that sense, every part of India comes up with their specialized creative thoughts, specialized artifacts. But then, since ever the oppression that we have faced from the Western world, we have always been, told that you are primitive. Your culture is not upmarket. Your culture is not polished, right? We are polished. We are, high class people. Obviously, as Indians, we are black. Right? By native, we are black. And the Westerners, they obviously, because of their climatic conditions, they are white. It's just the climatic condition which makes the difference, right?
Yes.
And obviously, with centuries, the gene starts getting changed and all those things. But then, the way our Indian culture has always been very simple. We have been a very simple living, community, and we had this feeling of community, right? Now, this community feeling has been so strong that it was very difficult for the oppressors to break in through. So they created different narratives to create divide among us and try to, impress us with their ideology, and then eventually with so many years, so many decades, so many centuries, we eventually gave up, right? Now what happens is, our education system has also been based on their ideology. Our original education system, which was in Sanskrit, our Vedas,
Yes.
our Puranas, that has been oppressed and destroyed by them tactfully, intelligently. Hence, we are not in touch with those, education system. So eventually what happened is, we have imbibed their education system, their thought process, and eventually we are working based on what they like.
Yes.
And not what we like. But if you go to different parts of India, if you go deep down, go to the roots, for example, if you look at food, there are so many varieties of food, cuisines that we have in India, and they are not, they are so rich in their nutritional value, right?
Yes.
But what we are doing, we are accepting the Western culture of food, which is damaging our health. Our healthcare, Ayurveda, it has been so strong. But what we are doing, we are imbibing their pharmaceutical industry's narrative, and we are trying some quick fixes. Eventually, we are damaging us more. Same way in design, if you look at architecture, Western architecture is all about tall, tall straight buildings.
Yes.
You will see very little
Indeed.
stories into it. Very little stories into it. But if you look at our culture, our architecture, go to the mandirs. Every mandir talks stories.
Yes.
Vidisha is just near to where you are sitting right
Yes.
now, right? Go to Sachi Stupa. Sachi Stupa resembles so many emotions. The gate, the pillar that is there, the pillar is not just a structure, it narrates a story, and these stories have been done in curving. right? So we actually need to get into those roots, understand the stories that are being depicted, understand the stories that are lying with our people, and try to bring those stories out. It is not something which is going to happen overnight, because we have a mindset, we have an education which has been imposed on us by different narratives over decades. And probably if we start now with the thought process of decolonizing those thought processes, those narratives, then it might take us another 50, 100 years. But then somewhere somebody needs to start, right? And it's not about just India. This is a concept which is being, which is getting much more traction across the globe, because colonization is something which people across the globe has faced. It's a challenge for so many people, so many communities, so many countries, right? But then the rich culture that we carry, it's something which we have to preserve. We have to stand up and say, no, we are not doing the way you are doing, you are saying us to do. We will rather bring in our creativity, our intelligence, our stories, right? Now, Livius Chilipani has been a hit because we talked about the story of an Indian individual, and that too, a normal individual, a middle class person, right? Had it been a story of somebody extraordinarily rich, then it would have not created that impact, right? So pick up those stories from from your local region. They have a lot of things to talk. If you go to villages, I'm forgetting the name of that. It's you see this craft in Bihar. I'm forgetting the name. So if you look at our villages, our old age, every small huts used to have those paintings in white, right?
Yes.
I think it's called Madhubani art,
Yes.
right? So look at those art, the amount of color that used to be there. They used to be so vibrant, and every art used to depict a story, right? And if you look at the full canvas, it's a stories within stories, and it narrates a complete kind of a book kind of a thing with multiple stories being depicted and there. So those are the real culture that is there in our land. So as creative people, as students, it is very important for all the complete student fraternity. Even I consider myself as a student of design, because it's a learning you need to continue. And the more you learn, the more you start seeing things with an open mind, the more you will stay away with the biases, and the more you will be able to value this concept, right? And till the time you are able to value this concept, it's very difficult for us to establish this as a practice, right? And it's high time we need to do it.
Thank you so for such deep insights and invaluable inputs that you gave us. Definitely, India is a culture that's about storytelling, and it does set the context for the design festival that we are going to host. Thank you, sir. We hope you enjoy the rest of the festival. It was an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. With camera person Sanya Mehta, this was Chahat Agrawal. For more such interactive sessions, keep watching Lakecity Live.